In 2014, art conservators at the Fitzwilliam Museum in Cambridge were restoring a 17th century Dutch painting. For over 150 years, it looked like a simple, somewhat bleak seascape, a crowd of people gathered on a cold, gray beach. But as the restorers carefully stripped away layers of yellowed varnish, they noticed a strange, dark shape lurking beneath the waves. They weren't looking at an empty sea, they were looking at a cover-up. Beneath the waves was a massive, beached sperm whale. Why was it painted over? Because in the 18th century, paintings of dead whales were considered ugly and unsellable. So, an art dealer literally erased a whale to make a quick buck. But this is just the surface. Today, we are looking at how art conservators use modern technology to reveal secrets artists tried to bury forever. We're going to look at 4 famous masterpieces where artists and censors hid scandals, ex-lovers, and dark secrets right beneath the paint. We'll look at a painting so controversial, it forced its artist to flee the country. And we will build up to a Renaissance mystery where a tragic noblewoman's true face and her identity was painted over with a lie and hidden for over a century. But first, let's look at a painting where a single fallen strap caused a national outrage. In 1884, a young, ambitious painter named John Singer Sargent unveiled his latest portrait at the prestigious Paris Salon. The subject was Virginie Gautreau, a Parisian high society figure known for her striking looks. Sargent thought this painting would secure his reputation as the greatest portraitist in Europe. Instead, when the curtain dropped, the room fell into a shocked silence, followed by whispers, and then outright jeering. Today, the painting is called Madame X, and it is celebrated for its elegance. But back then, Gautreau's mother literally showed up at Sargent's studio, weeping and begging him to destroy it. Why? It wasn't the plunging neckline, and it wasn't her pale, powder-white skin. The scandal was her right shoulder. In the original version Sargent painted, that jeweled strap had slipped off her shoulder, dangling down her arm. To the conservative Parisian public, this slipped strap wasn't just careless, it was a blatant suggestion of nudity, implying the dress was about to fall off. The backlash was so severe that Gautreau was socially exiled, and Sargent's commissions dried up overnight. He was forced to flee Paris and move to London. To save what was left of his career, Sargent painted the strap back onto her shoulder. But if you look at the X-rays and early sketches, the original slipped strap is still there, resting on her arm, hidden under layers of paint for over a century. While John Singer Sargent covered up a slipped strap to save his reputation, our next artist had to paint a cover-up to save his literal life. In 1823, the legendary Spanish painter Francisco de Goya completed a portrait of a prominent Spanish judge named Don Ramon Satue. On the surface, it looks like a standard portrait. A man in a dark suit, hands in his pockets, looking casually at the viewer. But Spain in the early 1800s was a dangerous place. Napoleon's French army had recently invaded, putting Napoleon's brother, Joseph Bonaparte, on the Spanish throne. Goya, who was the official court painter, found himself in a diplomatic nightmare, forced to paint the French invaders to survive. When the Spanish people finally revolted and drove the French out, the old Spanish monarchy returned with a vengeance. Anyone who had supported the French occupiers was branded a traitor. The punishment was execution. Goya was terrified. He had a secret in his studio that could cost him his head. Years later, researchers at the Rijksmuseum used advanced X-ray technology to look beneath the dark paint of the judge's portrait. Hidden directly underneath was a highly detailed portrait of a French general, wearing a grand uniform adorned with medals of the French Empire. Goya didn't have time to scrape the canvas or buy a new one. If the king's guards searched his studio and found a portrait celebrating the French occupying regime, Goya would have been arrested immediately. To survive, Goya painted the Spanish judge directly over the French general, hiding his political past. While Goya painted over his work to escape execution, our next artist did so for a much more tragic reason: extreme poverty. In 2008, scientists in the Netherlands were studying a painting by Vincent van Gogh called Patch of Grass. It's a bright, vibrant, almost joyous painting of wild vegetation. But Van Gogh struggled with poverty throughout his life. Using a high-intensity X-ray technique at the Delft University of Technology, scientists peered through the thick green and yellow brushstrokes. Hidden directly beneath the grass was a somber, dark portrait of a peasant woman. Before Van Gogh moved to Paris, he lived and worked among the poor, working-class communities of Belgium and the Netherlands. In the quiet Dutch village of Nuenen, he painted raw, dark portraits of local peasants, trying to capture the harsh reality of their lives. When he finally moved to France, he desperately wanted to practice his new, colorful style, but he had no money for materials. So, he took this older portrait of a Dutch peasant woman, turned the canvas upside down, and painted a bright, happy field of grass right over her face. But while Goya and Van Gogh covered their own work out of survival, our final case is the exact opposite. It is the story of a tragic Renaissance noblewoman whose true face, her history, and her identity as a saint were completely erased by a greedy art dealer. In 1978, the Carnegie Museum of Art in Pittsburgh purchased a portrait believed to be of Eleanor of Toledo. The woman in the painting had incredibly smooth skin, a tiny, delicate nose, and a sweet, youthful face. But the museum's chief conservator, Ellen Baxter, was highly suspicious. The woman's face looked far too Victorian, resembling a 19th century beauty rather than a 16th century noblewoman. When they X-rayed the canvas, they discovered a completely different painting underneath. The original woman was older, with a larger nose, prominent bags under her eyes, and a far more intense, solemn expression. Furthermore, the X-rays showed she was holding an alabaster ointment jar, and a faint halo was suspended over her head. She had originally been painted in the guise of Saint Mary Magdalene. This was Isabella de Medici, a free-spirited noblewoman whose life came to a tragic, mysterious end in 1576, sparking centuries of rumors that her own husband was responsible. Centuries later, an art dealer acquired her portrait. Knowing that a painting of a mature, solemn woman dressed as a saint holding a jar would be hard to sell in the 19th century, the dealer had her face completely repainted to look like a sweet, secular Victorian teenager. They literally painted over her halo and her urn, erasing her true history and identity just to make a profit. But the museum made the brave decision to strip away the 19th century paint, to rescue the real, historically accurate Isabella de Medici. Every time we look at a painting in a museum, we are only seeing the final draft of a story. Beneath the surface are hidden lives, desperate poverty, social scandals, and forgotten histories. The next time you stand in front of a masterpiece, ask yourself, what could the artist be trying to hide from you? If you want to discover more hidden secrets of history, hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.